G'day. Now in the past I did a video on these Swan security cameras that I got, but I didn't go too in depth with it. So what I'm going to do in this video is show how to grab the video from these cameras and feed them to a Raspberry Pi, and then use the Raspberry Pi to dish that out as multicast. And I'll also show how to record files of a minute length and just set up some scripts so it makes it all automatic. So that's the camera, and over here I have the Raspberry Pi ready to go. So if I just plug that in, boot that up, that's brand new, just got Raspbian on the SD card, and I'm booting it up for the first time. So I'll just very quickly do a bit of initial setup. And one thing that I want to show you is how to make the console bigger, because it's a bit of a pain, as you probably know, especially for you trying to watch this on there. So it's just doing the file system resize there, so we'll be back in a sec. Okay, so log in, Pi, Raspberry, oh, it wasn't ready for me. Oh, this first one takes forever. Raspberry. Okay, I'm in. Now, as I said, this is very small, this text. So go sudo dpkg reconfigure setup dash console. If I remember right. No, what have I done? Oh, console setup. So do that again. Sudo dpkg dash reconfigure and it's console setup. That'll be it. Okay, so just flick through these, say yeah, terminus. That's the one we go for, and now I'll just pick the biggest one down the bottom. And voila, that's bigger. Okay, so now we're ready to go. The Raspberry Pi is just set up. What I will do, actually, while I'm on it, is I'll enable the SSH server. I'd normally do a lot more things for the setup, but that'll do just so I can connect to it. It'll do for the purpose of this. Okay, so I've put that Raspberry Pi to the side, and I'm just going to work on my main computer here now because I've got VLC installed, and I'm just going to show you how to connect to these cameras. Now, these cameras, this and most of them really, provide an RTSP source. So I'm just going to connect to that with VLC and go RTSP. Then its IP address 192.168.80.9, port 554 / channel 01 / 0. Oh, that's popped up over there. So there it is. Okay, beautiful. Now, by default, that'll be UDP, and we can check that with the good old Wireshark. I'm going to find Wireshark. Okay, if I bring up Wireshark and just start capturing there, you can see it's UDP, right? UDP coming in, there it is. Okay. Now, I don't actually want UDP. What I want, UDP is fine for video. I use it all the time, especially because when you're pumping out multicast, that will be UDP. But to get it from the camera to the Raspberry Pi, these aren't the best devices in the world. I want to use TCP. So to do that, instead of starting like we did with this command, what you can do is just on the end of that use RTSP-TCP. Okay, same video is coming in, but this time if I do another capture now, you'll see that it's all TCP coming in. Okay, so that's a bit more reliable. It gets rid of a few glitches that you might have otherwise had. Okay, so we have TCP data coming in to the to this computer for now, but it will be the Raspberry Pi. So I'll stop that. The next thing I want to do, if let's say that's running, like I'll just run that again. That's all running and beautiful. But let's say I pull the cable out of the camera, or something happens to this and the video stops coming in. Now what's going to happen with VLC is it'll stop playing in a second. It'll figure out there's no video stream. But you can see VLC is still running. The program's still there, okay? Nothing particular is ever going to happen until I sort of provide some input. So what I'll do is I'll shut that down, and this time I'll add another option to it. I'll do -- play and exit. Guess what that does? Now if the camera's booted up yet, it hasn't. Okay, hang. I just plugged the camera back in, it hasn't quite booted up, but it can't be far, so I'll do that again. Okay, so there it is. So again, it's playing nicely. If I unplug the camera, as in something happened to the video feed that VLC was playing, this time when it figures it out, it'll shut down VLC. Okay, and that's what you want. The reason I want to do that is because what we can then do is create a loop, so that just a loop to start VLC. So if something happens with it, it can constantly check and restart it if need be. Okay, but that's not all we're going to do. In addition to that, I mean, that gets the video to the Raspberry Pi, but I want to stream it out as multicast onto the network. So what I'm going to do is add a few little things here. Okay, so what am I doing there? Well, I'm doing a little bit of a transcode, not for the video, just the audio, because the audio is in a strange format. So I just put it in MPEG audio format to make it a bit more compatible with things, just a low bit rate. And here I'll just put it out to some address, 222. So 239.222, port 20,000, front door, call it whatever, doesn't really matter. So I will do that, and that will be sending it out now. So if I open another VLC session, okay, in addition to that one, and just look at RTP, let's go 222. Okay, now I'm playing the multicast stream that's coming from the Raspberry Pi on my network here. Okay, but you can see I've got VLC in the background here. Well, I don't actually want this running as an interface on the Raspberry Pi because I'm going to keep that minimal. So what I will do, go back to here and just run it as CVLC, Command VLC. Then what happens? It'll be running, and if I go back to that VLC to look at that multicast, bang, there it is. Okay, so that's what I'm going to have running on the Raspberry Pi. Now, as I said, if the video stream stops coming in for some reason, I want to make it start again. So what I would do there, just copy all that, make a little script, camera script. All right, and I'll just have bin bash sleep 5. That's when it's starting, just to make sure the Raspberry Pi settle down a bit before I actually kick this off. That just sleeps for 5 seconds. So here's my infinite loop, while forever, do this. Okay, and make sure that's one line, it is. And then sleep 1, and then done. Simple as that. So what that'll do, obviously it'll play it out, and if it stops for some reason, VLC will exit and it'll come to the next bit, and I'll wait for a second, then it will repeat and try it again. So let's see how that goes. Make it runnable there, and run that script. Oh, that's the 5-second wait at the start that I put in, and now it's starting. So if I try and look at that multicast stream, there it is. Now, if I pull this, if I show you in the background where it's running, you'll see VLC will stop, the background one. I'll just put this in so it can be booting up. Okay, now it's trying to connect again. The feed won't be there yet because I've just plugged this back in, so it's not there, but it'll keep trying. So there you go, let's try again, let's try again. Failed to connect to the server, which is the camera, because it's not ready yet, but it will come up eventually once the camera boots up. And there it is. So VLC in the background finally got there, just kept trying until it did. And the multicast stream, I was still listening on this client VLC for that multicast stream, and it just came back without any intervention. So that keeps it automatic, so that's good. You don't want the video to stop and then you have to manually do something to start it. Just make it automatic. So that's the first part, the VLC. So what I'll do now is I'll SSH to that Raspberry Pi and set some stuff up over there. So SSH Pi at 192.168.1.6. Yes, and Raspberry is the password. So sudo apt get update. I've got to install some software. So I'm going to put VLC on there, which will take a little while. And I'm also going to put FFmpeg on there because our next step uses FFmpeg to save that to the file. Okay, that's installed. In hindsight, I should have just put the full version of Raspberry OS on there because that's what that essentially did, was install all the missing things. Anyway, it's on there. So if I go back to the command I had before, that one there, CVLC, this time the Raspberry Pi is running things. So that should be delivering that multicast stream, and there it is, okay? So that's coming from the Raspberry Pi now as multicast. And one thing I forgot to mention, if I just get out of that, if your camera uses a username and password, you'll just want to use CVLC RTSP /, and then just put the user password at 192.168. blah blah blah. Okay, I don't have a username and password on there because I don't see a need for it inside my own LAN here, so I got rid of it. But if you need it, that's what you do. So if I want to make that script, what I'll do is just copy it like I did before. Script camera. Okay, so I'll just copy the script that we had. Okay, there it is. Now that should work. Make it executable like I did before. So there's the script, 5-second gap as I said. So what I want it to do is start this automatically when the Raspberry Pi boots. Okay, check script works. Okay, it's working. So what I'll do, in sudo, I'll just go to in etcrc.local, that script gets run when the Raspberry Pi boots up. So what I'm going to say is just run this script in home pi, what do I call it? Script camera. Now the thing is, if I run that, it won't work because this startup script is run as the root user and VLC won't let you run as a root user. So what we've got to do is just put a couple of things around that, run it as user pi and put that as the command. Oops. Okay, so now it'll run that as user pi from that location. So what I will do now is reboot it and see if it works. So the Raspberry Pi is rebooting. What I'll do, I'll just start this client. It won't work obviously yet because the Raspberry Pi isn't booted. But when it boots up, hopefully it'll start automatically and stream out that multicast, and we'll start seeing it coming in here. And there it is. Okay. So the Raspberry Pi automatically started that stream. And as I said, we have it in a loop. So if I take the camera down, bring it back up, when the camera boots up, of course, that stream should continue. So that's the first step of getting the video from the camera to the Raspberry Pi and of course streaming it out. You don't have to stream it out if you don't want, but I do, so that's what I do. And again, it's self-healed. So that's the video reception part done. So now what I'll do, just go back to that Raspberry Pi. That don't work. Now I'm going to look at FFmpeg. Now I'm just going to rip into this here and go FFmpeg, no standard in. Okay, so it's not going to accept inputs from the keyboard because I'm going to have this in the script, so there won't be any need for that anyway. Now, the stream that we're connecting to is the same as what we had here, 239.222. port 20,000. Now, a couple little options here. Map 0, codec audio copy, because we've already transposed it in VLC. Codec video copy. Yes to overwrite any files, but there won't be any because you'll see why. Now, what I'm going to do is break this up into 1 minute segments. Time is 60 seconds. Reset timestamps. SDF time 1. And I'm just going to call this. I'll just copy this. I'm going to call the file test.mp4, and I'm also going to put log level quiet, so it's not going to output much here. Okay, now this is running on the Raspberry Pi. No, it's not. So something happened. Okay, I've got the input.
Input. Right, input,
okay,
input.
Try that again. Here we go. Okay, so that's working there now. So what I did, I'll put that log level quiet on again, so you can just sort of sit there and be happy. Okay, now I'll let that run for, I think, a minute. So I'll just stop that and list and show you what's there. And what I've got are 2 files named by the date and time. Okay, and just while I think of it, there's something I forgot. In the startup script, ooh, what happened? In the startup script, probably should put one of these on the end of there so the prompt comes back. Otherwise, it sits there and I don't get to have a prompt. Okay, I've just restarted the Raspberry Pi now that I've put that ampersand on the end. So when it's booted up, this time it should give me a command prompt. There it is. Okay, so I can log into stuff. You can see it there, the VLC output as it's trying to connect. Okay. Okay, so I'll connect to it again. And there's the script. That script's running, we know that. Right, so back to the FFmpeg command. Here's what I want. FFmpeg, no standard in. The input is the multicast stream that we're now dishing out. Mapping the codec, just copying them straight through, and I'm breaking it into segments of 60 seconds length. Actually, I'll just make them smaller for this demo, but I'd keep them at 60. The time format, which year, month, date, hour, minute, second, with test after the end of it. Okay, and just start that there. So now, if I log in to the Raspberry Pi and list it, you'll see there's a file being created there. If I just list it again, you'll see it's getting bigger, 5.1 meg, 6.1. And because I made it every 20 seconds, what'll happen, that's got to be 20 seconds by now, we're getting close. There we go. So the next one's being made now. And that'll just continue making those files every 20 seconds or whatever you set it up here. So that's good and well, but I mean, you wouldn't want to do that on the SD card of the Raspberry Pi because, you know, you'd be stressing it a bit. So what you just want to do is get a USB external drive, something like this. Just grab one of these and do your setup, or however you want to do it. You might do it to a network storage, I don't know, whatever you do. But that's a nice way to break it up. And what you can do as well is install NFS or Samba or whatever you want, and just access those remotely at a different machine if you want to look at the footage. Now the reason I'm breaking up into minute files is because with MPEG you can't watch it until it's finished writing the file. So if something's happening and you want to check it out, it's got to finish writing the file first. So that's why I keep them as small files. So you can make a script similar to the VLC one that just has it in a loop. So if it dies for some reason, it'll just restart it. But FFmpeg should be pretty good. Now when you write your script, you might want to write it so that it creates a folder with the date. So that way you can set a crontab job up to run daily or nightly, so that it cleans up old folders past a certain date. Now with the date command, you probably know date just shows the time. I've still got British time on this because I didn't bother setting it. But you can also go date and then go date equals 7 days ago. Okay, and you can see that it's just printed what 7 days ago is, and you know, you could do it 70 days ago if you really wanted. But what you can do is do that 7 days ago, and then the format, because you can mess with the format. Let's have a look. You can do that, which is the same format as the files I was creating. So you can see the files start with that format, okay? So what you want to do is just play around with your script and make a folder with that format up here, and then just have a script like clean up, have that run every night so it can check for old folders of a certain date depending on how much data storage space you've got, and then just remove that folder. So that's how you can get data from the camera to the Raspberry Pi. Stream it out as multicast with some automatic restarting if something goes wrong with the camera, and stream it as multicast and save it as FFmpeg, and also have a script to delete stuff so that you don't just fill your hard drive up. I wouldn't save it on the SD card of the Raspberry Pi other than for testing here, but all in all, that's how you do it. So if you want to do that, have some fun with it, and yeah, until next time, take it easy.